From the Dallas On Air studios in beautiful Dallas, Texas, this is Fulfillment right here on DallasOnAir.com. And now here's your hosts, the Vegabomber, BJ Dunn, and the film Samarai, Carlos Salinas.
Welcome, everybody. This is Season 2, Episode 21 of The Fulfillment Show. So,
Old enough to drink?
Old enough to drink. That's exactly what 21 means. And with that, if you're not familiar with the Fulfillment Show, all we do here is we talk about films, movies, flicks, whatever you want to call them, to extricable levels of detail because we just love movies so much. Is that right?
Motion pictures, yes.
The
great.
Motion pictures.
On the big screen, preferably.
That's right. And to the right of me sits the film Samarai himself, Carlos Salinas. Wouldn't do the show without
Good morning, everybody.
the voice. That's right. The voice also with us behind that camera is going to be Kzach.
Greetings and salutations, campers. Welcome to DallasOnAir.com.
And today we have a special guest with us today. We couldn't wait to have her on via video chat, which is still better than nothing. We'd love to have it. And that is Christy the Jedigoddess is with us today.
Calling us from a remote location.
That's right.
From the Death Star.
Her ski chalet on Hoth.
Ooh.
Working on my tan.
Well, we're glad to have you with us here today, Christy. And I'll just tell the audience and everyone else today that what we're talking about is, since we're so close to Thanksgiving, which is all about family, we thought our way of saying thankfulness or thank you to family and everything else that's going on is to look at the best family movies that were ever made. So our list today is we're going to look at the ones that are they're just the most rewarding. Every time you watch them, you still get that same feeling you got the first time you watch them. And those are the films that we're going to look at today as our main topic. But before we get there,
like I said, as we were getting into before the show, Christy is the reason I got into podcasting here. So she should be shocked to know that this was actually my idea, family films.
That's right. That's right. So family is just family is just family. Even
It's all about family, as Vin Diesel says in the Fast and Furious.
17, actually G&BG rated films. Kzach, oh my God.
Yeah, I know.
You've been gone too long.
That's
Only
right.
come back from Hoth.
I have lost my mind.
2020 is doing a number on everybody.
I have softened in my old age.
Yes. So
Softened
just,
in the head.
so just like how Avengers films are always about teamwork, this is going to be about family. But just so you get a chance to know a little bit of about us here today, we're going to start off with what we've just recently seen, so you kind of get an idea what we will spend our time watching when we're not doing the show. And so I will go ahead and kick off that, and then I will go ahead and start pitching it around to see what everyone else has seen. So what I have seen first was a Netflix film called Jingle Jangle. So this was pretty interesting film. It's about a crazy eccentric inventor who has his ideas stolen from him by an apprentice. And this apprentice goes off and steals basically all of his shine. And then it's about how does he get back, with the help of a granddaughter that he doesn't know exists, back to being that great inventor that he was when he first got started. So the great inventor here is played, the older version of it is played by Forrest Whitaker. And the apprentice who steals his idea is Key of Key and Peele, who actually pulls it off. So that's the synopsis. But what this is really about is it's a Christmas story. It has, without being too Christmassy in a way, it's a classical. So there's dancing numbers in it. I will say that the Netflix did a great job of putting a great deal of production value into this because the casting is excellent. Where they found this young girl, her name is Madeline. She can sing her butt off, and she's the 11-year-old granddaughter, and she steals every scene that she's in.
Oh, wow. So
Jingle Jangle, for the first time, you get to see a film in this time range around Christmas. It's not just all a predominantly white cast. You got these black children here, and then you get to see just a broader vision of what Christmas looks like too. So I thought that was pretty interesting. However, friends, there are some challenges for me with this, which part of it would be that I couldn't even finish all of it because Unfortunately, it was boring. It was boring after a while. And that sucks because it started so well. The numbers were so well produced and so well done. I was watching with my mom. My mom fell asleep. She loves musicals, right? She fell asleep, and I was sitting there trying to give it another chance because of Forrest Whitaker. I was like, come on, guys, come on. But the problem was the pacing, right? They introduced some threads that they never kind of fleshed out to let you know why this person did this sort of thing and why they were over here. They just kind of wanted you to just accept it. And then it just, you knew where it was trying to go because it's a very simple plot. But it seemed like it plotted way too long to get there. So here's what I'll say. It's still worth a watch. I'm going to tell you, if you're going to try to watch something that you really want to watch over this, you probably want to watch that first, and maybe you kind of consider this next. It's not bad.
Load up on the eggnog.
Yeah, it's not bad, but it's just...
Mixing some Red Bull with the eggnog.
right?
Yeah.
And I really wanted to like this as much as I possibly could because I could see the first that were going on with this, and then just the idea and the direction and the styling here of the guy. The director is someone who does musicals.
Was it an original idea? Was it something you'd never seen before, as far as the concept or the story?
It was.
Okay.
It was an original idea. It was done by David Talbert, and so he's known for musicals. And it was his wife who said, "You know what? You should make this a movie." And he was like, "What do I know about movies? This should be a musical." And she's like, "The story itself is a Christmas story. It would be perfect." So Netflix got behind him and said, "Yeah, you're right. We don't have any stories, Christmas stories with a predominantly black cast, perhaps." That are mainstream, that people just know about. So, yeah, let's do it. Netflix said, we want to be the first ones, if anybody, to get out there and lead the way in this.
So would this have worked better as a stage play?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. But what's surprising is Key from Key and Peele does a great job playing a foil to Forrest Whitaker. And he was believable, but a bit over the top at times.
Michael King's always over the top, though, man.
Yeah, well, he is, but what they were trying to situate in this movie in terms of the tone... you didn't believe he was that villainous the way he was doing, right? Yeah. And so for Forrest Whitaker to be sitting there pulling his hair out and being so distraught, and then you watch the villain be almost kind of gleeful weird, you're kind of going, I don't think I'm afraid of the antagonist here.
I wonder if those roles should have been reversed because Forrest Whitaker is a fantastic villain.
Yes,
he
is.
And I could see him, him switching in the other, plays a sweet, kind of humble person. Yeah, I think I saw something recently that kind of did that too, where it's just like, oh, I wish you just let's just reverse the roles here. That would be the best way to go about it.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be bad. I mean, again, if y'all watch it, seriously, you see the goodness in it. You can see the production. You can see the acting, the singing, everything is fine. It's just that you can see it just gets lost a little bit. And it's almost like it's trying to be too smart. And it just needs to go back to, hey, it's simple. It's Christmas. It's a child, granddaughter finding out that her granddaddy was one of the greatest inventors ever. And he just needs a spark again, and she's that spark. And this child is delightful. She is. She can nail it. Like, she should be one of the Disney princesses. The fact that she's not with Disney is amazing because she's totally that type.
Wow,
So.
that's a get.
Okay.
But that's what I've seen. So that's my
check it out.
just seen. And we'll kick it over to the film Samarai. What have you just seen?
All right. I've seen a bunch of stuff lately. I've been catching up on The Crown season 4, which is great. Mandalorian, finally caught those first 4 episodes of season 2. Yes, awesome. But the movie I saw recently that I want to talk about today is Mank 2020. It's just called Mank.
M-A-N-K.
Directed by David Fincher, M-A-N-K. It's short for it's Herman L. Mankiewicz's nickname. They used to call him that.
Okay.
And Mankiewicz, if you didn't know, he was a script writer back in the 30s. He worked with MGM, Universal, the big powerhouse studios when studios were king back then. The Louis B. Mayer and Thalberg and those guys.
Oh my gosh, you're going way back.
Yeah, these were the icons, the titans of filmmaking back then. And he was a heavy drinker, brilliant writer, but he himself thought he had kind of lost his mojo, whatever you want to call it. He was in a real bad accident. He was convalescing in Victorville, California, which is a ranch way out in the middle of nowhere. And he was working with Orson Welles to write the script for Citizen Kane.
Wow.
And he was contracted to do the rewrite. Citizen Kane was a project that Orson Welles took on. He was 24 at the time, believe it or not.
24.
And he was kind of like a golden boy. The studio said, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to write it or make a movie about, whoever you want to collaborate with, it's up to you. We'll finance it, and you do it. And so he hired Mankiewicz to do the script, and he wrote him this huge script. And it was basically kind of about William Randolph Hearst, who was the big newspaper man back then. And this guy was super rich. He would be comparable to, Gates today, right? So he had all this power, and Mankiewicz they were actually in the same circles. He would get invited over to dinner parties and stuff, and they knew each other. And Hearst actually liked Mankiewicz. He just liked the way he talked. He was kind of a jerk. He was kind of an asshole, but he just liked because he was kind of an instigator. He was kind of like the devil's advocate all the time.
Okay.
And so there he was trying to write this script. They tried to keep alcohol away from him, but it wasn't until later on when he was like only 3 weeks away from the deadline, they finally let him start drinking. Then he like pumped out pages by the day, and by the time he finished the script, it was just like this thick catalog, like a manual. And of course, the script was great. It was the best thing he'd ever written. And there's a lot of subplots. There's the timeline. It goes to flashbacks and so forth. It's a beautifully crafted film. The acting is unbelievable. Gary Oldman plays Mankiewicz, and there are scenes in there, especially towards the end. He does this one scene where he's at a dinner party and he's doing this kind of monologue as he's going around the table, and it's unbelievable to watch. I will not be surprised if he gets nominated for Best Actor for this and wins it. I mean, he's that good in it. The supporting cast is great. Amanda Seyfried plays Marion Davies. She was the actress who was under William Randolph Hearst. I don't know the history back then, but I'm not sure she was married to him or was just under contract with him or something. Lily Collins in it. She does a good job. Tuppence Middleton. I love this name. Tuppence Middleton. She's English actress. I love English actress names. She plays Sarah Mankiewicz, the wife of Herman. And the rest of the supporting cast is all great. It's shot in black and white. It looks like an old movie. At the very beginning, it says Netflix International Films presents,
Sure.
Mank.
Yeah.
And it's in that old time script and everything. And I just loved it. It's a writer's movie. If you're a writer, you'll really appreciate it. It shows the process of writing. Every line in the script is just pitch perfect. And there's so many great lines. I can't wait to watch this.
Who's the writer on
It's
it?
coming. Believe it is Jack Fincher, but it's not related to David Fincher.
Okay.
And he passed away in 2003, so this must be a real old script.
Really?
Wow.
And he's from Texas, actually. Jack Fincher is. It's a great film. I think it's definitely going to make my top 10 of the year for sure.
Wow.
Trent Reznor, Alex Ross did the soundtrack. They do a more traditional soundtrack. They're usually known for their electronic scores, but in this one they do full orchestra and piano. And there's a beautiful piano thing he does over the credits that I just sat through. It was just like, it's just a front to back, just great filmmaking by David Fincher. I'm glad he did it. I'm glad Netflix put up the money for it and let him do what he did with this. And I wanted to see it on the big screen, so I went and saw it at the Angelica up in Plano. So it was definitely
That's pretty good.
Going to see it.
That sounds great. You make me want to go see it. I know that there was a child abuse version of this film called Spank, and then there was a Christian version of the film called Thanks. So there you go.
I know Marion Davies was the mistress of Randolph Hearst at the time, which wasn't terribly uncommon during that time period. But I haven't had a chance to see this, but the cast looks incredible. Arliss Howard's in it, Gary Oldman, Amanda Seyfried, and Fincher. I mean,
Yes.
you had me at Oldman, and then you put Fincher in there, and then you had me at Fincher. It's just like,
and it's also pretty relevant to today's political atmosphere too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of this has a lot of levels to it. So yeah, there's so many different things to enjoy in this film.
Yeah. And with that, how about we go to our special guest and find out what has the Jedigoddess watched since we've last talked to her?
oh my goodness. Well, I watch a lot of things, especially during this time. So of course I've been keeping up with the Mandalorian. I watched the newest Animaniacs, but what I chose to talk about today to stay on topic was Coraline. Coraline is a film that came out in 2009. It is on heavy rotation in my household, just because it's magic. It's a young girl who basically finds a parallel world in her own house that she just moves into. And it's about basically a little girl being brave, showing courage, not being afraid, to face the big bad monster kind of thing.
Wow.
And it's directed by Henry Selick. It's written by Neil Gaiman. Music in there's They Might Be Giants. I mean, it's hitting all the key points, and it's one of those films that's highly imaginative and creative. And being an artist, it's one of those films that I really connect to, especially since I was a kid. I like that it has that kind of Tim Burton kind of feel to it. But it's Henry Selick too, so he does this beautiful stop motion animation.
Was Burton the producer on that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Who was it?
Tim Burton?
I don't think he was the producer. No, this was a Henry Selick on this one.
Okay.
He might have contributed because him and Henry are really close. I know that. But it has that vibe to it.
Like
but
the
this
Leica films, like what was that one that came out? It was Japanese oriented.
Isle of Dogs?
No.
Spirited
That's
Away?
Wes Anderson.
Oh.
No, it was also stop motion. I'll think of it in a minute.
It comes through on a steampunk bike, you know.
Right.
But no, it's an older film, but it is a family film that I think just has a universal message, and it has that feeling where you can watch it during the holidays. You definitely watch it for Halloween, but I watch it year round. It's probably one of the films I've seen quite a bit of. It's one of my favorites, so highly recommended.
Excellent. We like it. We got to take notes on this. And Kzach, how about you? What have you just seen since we last talked to you?
All right. So normally we pick one for this, but I got two.
Of course.
And I have to do this because
If this runs long again.
well, did you know that Christy the Jedigoddess, in addition to being an expert on all things Disney, is also an expert on Star Wars?
Oh, yeah.
And so she'll be able to convalesce with me on this because over the weekend, I watched the 1977 Star Wars holiday special.
That's your problem, though. That's
Oh, God.
Hey, Zach,
Oh.
happy Life Day to you, son.
Oh, Lord. It may be a celebration of Life Day, but I just wanted to die watching this thing.
When you watch the holiday special of Star Wars, your pinky finger actually starts growing. The nail does. It gets longer.
In honor of Carrie Fisher, because she was visibly high on coke when she did this damn thing.
That's the
Yeah.
reference.
Oh my God! I mean, it's terrible. I mean, this special was the death of the variety show on network television, because you have terrible musical numbers from B. Arthur. You have Harvey Korman. Wookiee porn with Diane Carroll. It's just, I can't describe to you the nightmare unless you've actually seen it.
Oh, man,
Because
I
don't
thought
do
this
that.
was the
Don't-
most
don't-
rewarding
It-
family
Dude,
films.
Diane Carroll's
It is
dirty
a-
like that.
if you thought Jar Jar Binks and the Ewoks were annoying, you haven't met Chewbacca's kid, Lumpy.
I wore my Chewy sweater just for this moment.
Hang on, let me bring you up here. Hang on, show us again. Show us the sweater again.
Oh yeah, see, it's.
But like I said, in addition to that, not only did I watch the Star Wars Holiday Special, I also watched the Lego Star Wars Holiday Special on Disney. And this one was actually entertaining. This one takes Rey through a kind of a time travel through all the Star Wars franchises.
Well, what's fun about that is that they knew how to make fun of themselves in
Absolutely.
Lego film, and that's what really helps. With
Well, then that should have been a comedy then, because there's a lot of stuff to make fun of it now.
the Lego Star Wars Holiday
Special was being too serious. It was like, okay, we're gonna make this Empire the Christmas special. It's like, no, wait.
But the Lego Star Wars Holiday Special is actually fantastic. Lots of great comedy, enough fan service to where you don't feel cheated. And again, you finally get to see Finn get some Jedi training, so hopefully it actually remains canon. So, but honestly, the Lego Star Wars Holiday Special is actually really worth watching. It's really entertaining. If you like the Lego stuff, if you like Star Wars, and just wanted kind of a weird holiday special, this new one on Disney Plus, it's fun, and like I said, I actually enjoyed a family show. So there you go.
Wow. Well, I have a
Mark
feeling.
this on my calendar, and I'm putting it on the Advent calendar as well because that little door never opens. That one's been closed for
For a very long time, and then suddenly his heart grew 3 sizes that day.
Candy's gonna be like all white and weird.
Oh, good Lord.
Well, that's amazing, because if you think that's a good family film, then these films that we're about to list in our next segment are going to destroy
Nice
that.
segue.
Okay. Because we want to get to the films, for example, the family films that most of us, when we saw these, we were young. But we have such a fond attachment still to this very day to these films. And in fact, these are so family that if we have children or kids or even just nephews or something like that, we will probably show this to them because it meant so much to us when we saw them as children. So with this segment, we are going to look at the most rewarding family films. And then as a subset, we're going to look at just the most rewarding film that you watch just traditionally anyways, regardless of whether it's a holiday or being around family. But first, let's start off with the film Samarai, and let's hear your list of rewarding family films.
Okay, for my rewarding family films, these are films that we discovered when my kids were little.
Okay.
Early 90s. My son was born in 92. My daughter was born in 95. Let's talk about Jumanji, 1995. The original one, the best one.
Robin
This is the
Williams.
Robin Williams.
My man.
It's a great story. It's adapted from I think his name is Chris Van Alstyne, wrote the Jumanji children's book.
Right.
They adapted into a film. The film is so much fun. It is definitely a family film. There's nothing overly violent or, graphic or anything like that. The special effects still hold up to this day. I haven't watched it in a while, but the last time I watched it, all the animal CGI stuff is incredible. And for its time, that scene where the lion comes out for the first time is just like, whoa, it looks like a real freaking lion, And the monkeys, it's very comedic. David Alan Grier is perfect in this movie. I love his part when they grab that car, the tentacles pull it, and he just gives out that that scream, And Kirsten Dunst is in this movie. Very young Kirsten Dunst. She plays, I guess, like a 13, 12-year-old kid.
Right.
Her and her brother are kind of like the two main characters. And then Robin Williams, of course, who was stuck in Jumanji playing the original game way back when he was a child. And it's kind of a story about how a young boy was bullied and comes from a rich family. And then his father was this very stern, father figure. And then the villain in the film is played by the same actor, so it's kind of like the duality of that image, that father image. Why does my father hate me? And there's a lot to it. This is so much fun. I love this movie, and we watched it so many times, and it was one of those movies. What do we watch? All you had to say was Jumanji. Oh yeah, they run and grab it and put it on, and it was that kind of movie. So. You want me to go into the next one, or are we going to take?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. The second one is 93, The Sandlot.
The Santa, yes.
Yes, definitely. If you were a kid that grew up in the 60s, maybe 70s, I don't know about 80s kids if they did this, but this was the days when you went outside and you stayed outside all day long and you roamed the neighborhood and you had friends and you threw rocks and chased cats and stuff. But it's about a boy who moves into a new neighborhood and becomes friends with this group of kids that all they do is play baseball all day long. It's a wonderful piece of nostalgia.
Yeah.
The suburbs,
Yes.
you know, the cookouts, the July 4th, you know, when everybody broke out the grills and the hot dogs and the plot is they hit a ball over a fence, but it's a ball that he borrowed from his dad's collection, which he had no idea was signed by Babe Ruth. And he goes into the neighbor's yard, and the neighbor has like a dog back there. It's this monster dog, you know, it's this huge dog. And of course, they're trying to come up with all different kinds of ways to get it, and they keep failing. And James Earl Jones is the owner of that dog, and it's just one great scene after another.
Yes,
one great
yes.
set piece. The lines in this movie are so repeatable. You know, you're killing me,
Smalls, yes.
Wendy Peppercorn, the scene at the swimming pool. Just
Yes.
so many great classic scenes. David Mickey Evans directed this, and it's just great. We loved it every time.
I love it. That's so great. How about you, Christy?
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness. So I have three, but I'll go through them quickly. I promise.
Sure, you're good.
I couldn't help because I was thinking rewarding family films.
Yes.
And this first option was I wanted to pick something that meant a lot to me as a kid. So I actually saw this in theaters. It was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. From 1980.
Rick Moranis.
I saw this in theaters. Rick Moranis, just Matthew Muir, great cast. It's directed by Joe Johnston, who also directed Jumanji.
Yes. Forgot to mention that.
And of course, The Rocketeer, which is one of my favorites,
Mine
and
too.
Captain America. Just a real stable, amazing director. I picked this one because I grew up watching practical effects. I love CGI. CGI is wonderful too. But rewatching this film, it so holds up because they built everything big. The concept of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is Rick Moranis is an inventor, creates a shrink ray, and the kids accidentally get shrunk. And so now the kids have to go through these adventures in the backyard, and so you're looking at giant ants, auntie, and leaves, and water puddles falling down. They could drown in a puddle, in just one raindrop. So it's highly recommended. I love it. It's just a beautiful fantasy film. And as a kid, it had a lot of magic for me. My other one I went to was Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yes.
God, great pick.
Directed by the wonderful Robert Zemeckis. 1988. This film, again, same thing. This blended the traditional animation with real film, and starring Bob Hoskins. Great cast, hilarious. This one I think really can speak to adults and to families alike, because there's things kids are going to find hilarious, and there's stuff that adults can glean off of it too, so they're not sitting there watching another kids movie and like
Right.
But,
And again, because it was every cartoon never made except for the Hanna-Barbera guys.
Exactly.
You saw, all those things that as kids we watched and as your parents were watching, again, it wasn't exactly your kid's cartoon, because again, it was a murder mystery. It is a film noir takeoff with a cartoon twist.
And Christopher Lloyd is a fantastic villain.
Oh, he's
and
amazing.
he has truly scary moments in it.
That reveal
And
is
you want him to not you gotta get the bad guy because he's a real bad guy. And I saw that in theaters too, of course. And then my third one I'll go into. This is a personal favorite of mine. Labyrinth from 1980.
Yep.
Directed by Jim Henson. George Lucas was a producer on it. Of course, I have to throw that one in.
Yes.
But I mean, David Bowie, one of my first crushes. Still forever Bowie crush. But it was again It was a female character I felt like I could identify with as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a magical story, all practical effects, and it's just weirdly creative, very imaginative. And these were the films that are kind of like the staples for me, just like,
Yeah.
you know. I felt like my mind was just going to implode with all the really cool ideas and creativity that these films inspired. And I still think all of these films really hold up today. Rewatching it and things like that, they just have a magic to them.
Yes.
It's not canned, it's original, it's not predictable. They're all just their own unique DNA for a film.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yes, love it. That's such great picks, and those are rewarding.
That little worm. Hello.
Yo.
Hello. Don't go that way. No, you never go that way.
But yeah, it's quotable that David Bowie is an amazing presence on screen. Jennifer Connelly's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so great notes. Those are great notes. How about you, Kzach?
All right. So my two have something in common, and that is the same screenwriter, Chris Columbus.
Okay.
For me, the two that I chose here, the first one that I'll go with is Goonies, directed by Richard Donner, 1985. Again, this is an amazing adventure movie.
Yes.
Slight plot holes, but still, like I said, it's a film about kids, outsiders, kind of coming into their own, and believing in yourself, believing in your friends, and going on an amazing adventure, fighting crime, and absolutely, just like I said, it is one of those absolutely quintessential '80s movies that you really must see. If you were an '80s kid, if you grew up in the theater, this is one of those films that never gets tired of being watched on a bigger screen.
Yeah, I can see that.
The Cyndi Lauper music. It very much is a picture of the time, but it's also a timeless classic.
Hey guys.
And like I said, it still holds up. I mean, years and years later. I mean, we're in 2020. That was 85. Something like 35 years ago, and it still holds up. That's the amazing part of it.
Yes.
Is that it's like I said, it has some PG language, but again, like I said, it holds up as a family film because again, it is all about family. It's the family that you have around you, and the family that you choose.
That's right. I love it.
The second one that I chose is absolutely my favorite Christmas movie of all time. It's not exactly a traditional family film, but it is a film that, like I said, my family dug, and that is Gremlins. Again, Christopher Columbus written, directed by Joe Dante. Again, just a great, cartoon violence, science fiction, crazy infestation movie, but again, it's so funny. The puppetry in it is absolutely remarkable. The effects in it still hold up, and again, like I said, even though it's cartoon violence, it's still slightly terrifying. But again, it is still just that kind of warm family pet movie, and then the family pet movie goes absolutely wrong. And again, like I said, it is the holiday classic that I always reach to, and like I said, the reason why I think of it every year is because when we watched it as my family a couple years about when the movie had just come out, I picked up a little 3 plastic figure thing of Gremlins. It was Gizmo, Stripe as a Mogwai, and then Stripe as a Gremlin. And we always, and every year we put Stripe in the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
So just to commemorate that scene, my parents got the biggest kick out of it, and I got the kick out of it. And again, like I said, it was just one of those family traditions that we always kind of brought up because, again, of the Gremlin and the Christmas tree. Like I said, it's
I just watched Gremlins 2, the new batch, and it holds up. It holds up 100%.
It holds up if you look back on it for what it was. And again, Christopher Lee is the best thing about that movie.
Of Gremlins and Gremlins 2, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Gremlins 2 is worth going back to watch again because of Christopher Lee mainly. Christopher Lee and Hulk Hogan. How can you go wrong?
Phoebe Cates for me.
He says Phoebe Cates. Oh.
I hate Lincoln's birthday. I love it.
Well, I picked it too as well, and I was looking at this, and again, super difficult for someone who loves movies and loves films, and the 80s was my time too. I mean, I was a teenager in the 80s, so this was just right. But it started with a movie that showed up on the scene in May of 1982. It's an American film, sci-fi adventure. You know where I'm going. The director was Steven Spielberg, and it was starring Henry Thomas, Dee Wallace, Peter Coyote, and the music was John Williams again after all the great stuff he's done. And I'm talking about the movie E.T.
Yes.
So I remember
Cry.
seeing this.
Make you cry.
Yes, I remember seeing this and going, oh my gosh. So as a kid who was a BMXer back then and watching them on their BMX bikes, say as a kid, we would try to set up ramps and try to jump and try to see if we could make it and stuff like that into another side. So in this movie, to see them take off in the air and that iconic scene of the bike flying across the moon with it, as a young BMX bike kid, I was like, oh my gosh, that is so awesome. I wish I could do that. But you even have this story, a great synopsis, right? So here's an extraterrestrial that's left behind. And then, of course, the kid that finds him, Elliot, decides, I want to meet him. I want to befriend him. I want to leave some M&Ms, which really were Reese's Pieces, because M&Ms refused to do it because they thought that the movie they might not want the association with M&Ms.
Womp womp.
Can you believe that? Big fail. Big fail. So Hershey's said, we'll do it. So we'll make them Reese's Pieces then. And so we got Reese's Pieces and loved that because M&Ms basically said, nah, we too cool for this, right? And so you get this great story of this, which later on I found out that Steven Spielberg said that when his mother got divorced, which you see Dee's divorced in the film, it was a kind of like an analogy for him and his imaginary friend that he had. That's what he created in order to cope with divorce. That's what Spielberg did. Wow. And so once he met Madison, she sat down and they sat down together and they said, well, why don't we just make this an Alien, since you did, Close Encounters was a big thing and they want kind of a sequel to that, but that's not in your heart. You want to tell something a little different and not horrific, because there wasn't anything like this in 82 when it came to science fiction and not being a horrible, scary thing, but adding kids to it, which was brilliant. And then he just said, you know what, let's do this. Let's do it exactly like that. And so here you go. This movie now, was made on a budget of 10.5 million, which today's terms would be about 25 million. That's the equivalent. And this film went on to surpass Star Wars, one of my other favorite movies of all time, right? It surpassed it and was number one until, Jurassic Park came out a few years after that. So it also then, this movie, E.T., was so taken over that it ended up getting nominated in 1994 and was added to the National Film Registry of the Library of Congress. And it was quoted as being one of the most culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant films of all time.
It was one of the first
E.T.
films that I saw in the theater at least 8 times.
Yes.
I just went week after week to go see it again and again, and I cried every time. And trying to revive E.T. with the paddles and he's about to die. Just crushed me. That one shot of Drew Barrymore where she just burst out in tears.
Yes.
Just right in the heart every time.
Yeah. And I mean, it really was for folks of our generation, that first really big screen movie.
Yes.
I mean, outside of Star Wars, which you couldn't really get on video because video hadn't gotten that big yet.
Yep.
This is one of those first that it popped on your screen or it popped in your theater, and it was that film that you wanted to see over and over again because it's so visually amazing. All the expression, the puppetry, the special effects.
Yes.
Carlo Rambaldi, the puppeteer or designer, he did a lot of those special effects back then. Amazing, phenomenal job on E.T. the puppet.
Absolutely, and the idea that Spielberg said, I just don't want this to look like a man inside of a suit. So again, back then you didn't have CGI to the level that you have, at all today. What we would look at, so you're using animatronics to try to make something actually move, just like they had to use for Jaws, right? So you don't have the greatest of the greatest of that, but you don't even consider that. You really are so bought up in the story of this kid who's trying to make that juxtaposition into adolescence and then dealing with the divorce. Because notice when you look at the camera angles, right? In the first half of the movie, they don't shoot above the waist when they show the adults. That's much almost like 2/3 of the way in that you start to see that. It's shot from the child's perspective in the first 45 minutes of that film. You'll see everything's at eye level for a kid. And so for Spielberg to say, I'm going to do that when they wanted another version of give us Close Encounters Part 2 with some more crazy, weird stuff coming from outer space, he went and made it home. And he said, well, we don't need to create we don't need to create aliens outside. We have kids who are alienated in their own families. And what does that feel like? Right?
You know, if you really want to understand the magic of Steven Spielberg, E.T. to me is the perfect film for that.
Yes.
Because he has this magic of, you know, even with child actors. Every time he works with a child, he brings out this just charisma. He brings out like kind of the spirit of, he captures the spirit of being a child on screen. And you feel it from beginning to end. And he's one of the only directors, there's very few of them, Ron Howard kind of has this too, where they could just really go in there and just bring that, just that magic component out. E.T. is one of those films, when I saw it, I had a total anxiety attack when I was a kid. When I first saw it, because when one spoiler alert, 30 plus years later, when E.T. dies, at first I was completely upset because I was totally bought in as a kid to E.T. me being my friend. He's my friend. And I remember when he came back to life, I was bawling my eyes out. And my uncle had to come up to me and he goes, "What's wrong? Are you okay?" Because I'm like having an issue. I've been very connected to films since I was little. And I told him, he goes, "No." I go, "E.T. died." And he goes, "No, he didn't." And he fast forward, he rewound it back and fast forward. He goes, "See, he came back." And I go, "That's not how it works." he to this day, he's still traumatized about E.T. because of me, because he said, I didn't know what to do. That's the thing. I was so connected to E.T. and it was a moment of like, I really felt like, again, E.T. was my friend. Elliot was a kid I knew. You know, you just become one, you're there with them. So it was a really crazy, beautiful movie for me. I'm very connected to E.T.
And the reason why that worked for Spielberg is he did something uncharacteristic that most filmmakers didn't do, and that was he shot the film in sequence, not shoot a sequence here, then a sequence here, then stitch it together. And he did this because he wanted the child's actors' responses to be flawless. Right. So he shot everything in sequence. So they didn't know at the end that he'd be okay because they could have shot his comeback earlier. They didn't. They wanted the kids to have that same belief of what was happening in the film. So he shot everything in sequential order, which is how he got that effect. And my other film, real fast, because I know it's easy. We can talk about E.T. all day. It's a great thing, right? So here's the other one. In 1993, so 11 years later, Spielberg comes out with another one. This one is Jurassic Park. And I love this one. Now, it was based again on the book by Michael Crichton, right? And it was named the same thing, right? And so this is just that story that involves the scientists visiting a safari amusement park, right? of genetically engineered dinosaurs on an island over one weekend. And then sabotage takes place, and it's about how will they get off this island, escape from an island. So this was huge because for me, a lot older at this point, a little bit older than that, what I started to get into was music really heavily. And I will tell you right now, and find a movie that does this better, but the sound stage and the sound design of Jurassic Park, to this day, if you want to test your new home theater equipment, you need to put in a copy of Jurassic Park, because when you hear the sounds of the dinosaurs walking, the bass, the treble, the way whenever they do the shrill of the voices of the dinosaurs, which was a mixture of lions and baby elephants, just that idea. And then he created DTS, Digital Theater Sound, at this time. And this was right before Dolby. So here he comes again this time. And this isn't just visuals. He brought sound. And if you try to watch Jurassic Park without the sound, you lose almost everything right? Absolutely. Because the sound was so huge. And so with Jurassic Park for me now is in 93, so I'm in college now. So I'm sitting back going, oh my gosh, I didn't know a movie could envelop me, not only with just the visuals, but the sounds made me believe that those dinosaurs were real.
Yeah, the first time you saw that in a theater with that sound, it was off-putting.
Yes.
It was literally off-putting because you're surrounded by all of it.
Yes.
And when my folks took me to that theater, what the hell is that?
Right?
Those horns, man, in the very beginning when they roll the credits, when you hear that horn coming through, I remember thinking, oh man, we're like entering a different world.
Another world,
I will
right?
say the Jurassic Park films are the only the films I've seen opening day, every single one of them.
Yes.
From the
Yes.
very first one released in '93 all the way to the newest one, which I actually love the new ones. I think they're great too.
My sincere
no,
apologies on Jurassic Park 3.
Yes.
I'm a dino girl from back in the day. I'm a super nerd. I like dinosaurs and movies, and I'm all over it. So seeing this film, because what I knew from dinosaurs was like Ray Harryhausen films. That's what I knew growing up.
Mhm.
And so this to me was a big, and the Land of the Lost, but that's nothing compared to watching Jurassic Park. When you see that, and I saw it with my whole family, their first film.
Yes.
So it was really like a big moment because everyone, like the effects, everyone I just remember was just like taken back by how beautiful everything. It was perfect. And then Jeff Goldblum.
Yes, and that is my next piece because I hadn't even talked about the cast yet. So you're talking about Jeff Goldblum, you're talking about Sam Neill, Laura Dern, Richard Attenborough, Samuel Jackson, and a whole list of others, all in this film. And then on top of that, this was the first blockbuster film to break 900 million.
Yeah.
Okay, so it took over after E.T. and all those. It took over Star Wars, which took over, which E.T. took over Star Wars, and then Jurassic Park took over this, and then of course we know in '97, that other film was the first film to ever go $1 billion, and that was Titanic. Okay, and so, but before you had Titanic, 900 million was the most anyone went to go see a film. It was about dinosaurs.
Oh man, my kid loved dinosaurs. I bought him the T-Rex, the big toy.
Yes.
He carried that thing around everywhere.
Yeah,
That was his favorite toy.
Yeah.
Squeeze the ribs and then give it the little.
Yes, and that's how they did this. They did a great thing. And so now let's do this. Let's switch just a little bit. We're going to do the same thing. We're just going to pick one movie now that is our traditional movie that we just put on and we'll watch no matter what the scenario is, whatever the situation is. It's just our go-to movie to sit down and watch. And this time, let's start with our special guest. Let's start with Christy.
Hey, well, I'm going to sneak in one other one only because it's a short TV special. I put down The Grinch from 1966,
Okay.
narrated by Boris Karloff, and of course, voicing the main character, directed by Chuck Jones.
Chuck
A
Jones.
fantastic film based off the Dr. Seuss book. Animated film of everyone's favorite antisocial green creature man whose heart is 2 sizes too small, and it's the perfect holiday movie about giving more of yourself and getting the biggest reward in the end. And then the main movie, one I watch every year, I'll watch it any time of year, of course, is Nightmare Before Christmas.
Okay.
Again, directed by Henry Selick, and this is from an idea by Tim Burton. Fantastic. You got Chris Sarandon as the voice in there. You got Catherine O'Hara. Amazing, amazing music. Oh my gosh, Danny Elfman. But the really cool thing about Jack Skellington as our main character, again, the imagination, the creativity, it's stop motion. You have Jack Skellington, who is the Pumpkin King of Halloween Town, but he wants to do something different. He's stuck in a rut. He's stuck in this monotonous celebrating. There's 365 days until Halloween, and he wants to do something different. So he stumbles upon this wonderful place in the woods where each holiday has its own portal. And he's drawn to Christmas Town. And when he goes in there, it's something new, it's something exciting, it's something that speaks to him. And he tries to bring a little bit of Christmas to Halloween Town, and as you can imagine, calamity ensues. So I saw this in theaters as a kid watching this for the first time on the big screen. And I have seen the re-releases since then, especially in 3D. Seen pretty much every iteration of this film that's been on the big screen.
Yeah.
It continues to have magic and impresses me. I still find little things here and there, just motions and movements of the characters, and how dialogue or how the flow is.
Mm.
It's just there's just pure magic in it, and it's weird and dark, but in the most beautiful way. It's not your traditional kind of Christmas film, and those are the stuff I noticed that I gravitated to a lot. Things that just kind of thought outside the box, because it made it seem like the world was so much bigger.
Yeah.
Imagination was bigger than, these four things. You can just go and take it to the next level. So.
Dig it. How about you, Film Samarai?
All right.
What's a standby for you every time?
As you said in your introduction, this was a movie that was a tradition when I was a kid.
Okay.
And I brought it to my kids when I grew up. But it was the 1956 Cecil B. DeMille film, The Ten Commandments.
Ah, yes.
It's every Easter, of course. I guess it was it NBC that always put it on every year?
Yeah.
So it started at like 6 o'clock, and by the time it was over with all the commercials, because it's like a 3-hour film anyway, and with all the commercials, it ended at like 10 o'clock at night. So you were watching this thing for hours. But the majesty of this film, the set pieces, the costumes, everything. Of course, Charlton Heston's iconic performance as Moses versus Yul Brynner's, regal Ramses.
Yes.
That bald head.
Yeah.
My ex used to just like slobber over his legs in the movie. She says, "Oh, he's got great legs." The cast, Ann Baxter as Nefertiti, who had a thing for Moses, and this stunt casting, of course, the Edward G. Robinson as Dathan. Still using his, his kind of like gangster accent, but it's a movie for the ages, to me, it doesn't age at all.
You don't like it? You never really are in Israel, see? Yeah.
The special effects are just incredible. The parting of the Red Sea. This was done in 1950s, right?
53,
And
right?
that was no CGI.
No.
I don't know how they did these effects.
It was paintings.
It was incredible, but and the thousands of cast, they hired all those extras. It wasn't like digitized.
This is the cast of thousands.
Oh yeah, and it is just one of those movies where we just, I'd never get tired of watching it, but it still holds up, and still watch it every once in a while.
Yeah.
Don't watch
It
it
was
every
filmed
year.
in Mount Sinai. It's filmed on location in Egypt.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
I mean, Yvonne Carlo is fantastic in it too.
Yes.
It's a film that, in my family, when I was younger, was my grandmother's favorite film, and as she would refer to him as the beautiful Charlton Heston is in it. Beautiful Yul Brynner. But yeah, it's a film that just stands the test of time. That and The Robe.
Yeah. That's good. Ben-Hur. Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
How about you, Kzach?
All right, so my choice for a family film is it's an R-rated film, and I don't care because it is the film that I watch with my family. I've watched this 4 times a year since I was 4 years old, and it is The Blues Brothers. It is absolutely greatest musical of all time. Changed my mind because you have tremendous musical performances from Ray Charles, from Aretha Franklin, from James Brown. Not to mention the fact you have a phenomenal script written by Dan Aykroyd, directed by John Landis. John Belushi is absolutely the most amazing presence on screen. It is absolutely just a phenomenal musical. It's a film about family. It's a film about finding your place with God. It is the absolute, and like I said, it's cartoon violence amped up to the max. It is even as a kid, like I said, the language is beyond me. But like I said, it is that film that I grew up with and just keep watching every year, multiple times a year, because it's just so funny. It's so great. It's so great. It's such a great film to watch. I've watched it so many times. I know it word for word. I know the score song for song. It is absolutely my favorite film of all time. And it is a film that makes me think of my mom because she was raised on the south side of Chicago. So this is the music that she grew up with.
Yes.
So, and like I said, because they grew up, in their 20s and 30s are watching Saturday Night Live. They're watching these comedic icons come on screen. And so they passed that on to me. So that's why this film is just huge in my world because it is the film that I watched so many times as a kid with my folks.
Yes.
And so I keep watching it because it makes me think of them.
See, that is incredible. And that's exactly what we mean here by, family and being thankful when we get together around each other here, and we're going to be eating some turkey and whatnot here soon. It's stuff like this that you're going to remember and you're going to be thinking about. And so with that, mine was, I went with something that I watch with my family now, we've been doing this probably for the last decade, maybe. But it's a film that was released in 2008. It was a comedy directed by Seth Gordon called The Four Christmases. And so it was also produced by Vince Vaughn, who's also starring in the film. So it's Vince Vaughn and Reese Witherspoon as this unmarried couple that has to, for Christmas, go visit all four of their families, since they have families that have been divorced. They go to his dad and his mom's, and they go to her dad's and her mom's for Christmas. And they do this all in 2 days period of time, I think. And the hilarity ensues, as they say, because you've got Robert Duvall playing Vince Vaughn's dad, and he's the typical, "Hey, let me tell you about your mother. I hate to speak ill about your mother, but she was a common street whore." Dad, don't say that stuff at Christmas. What are you talking about? Hey, she left you because you would never talk to her, and you never, right? And so you get that, and then you see his mom, Vince Vaughn's mom, is played by Sissy Spacek. And she's like the new she's the new age person that's doing all this kind of therapy and crystals and putting weed inside of brownies, and hey, we'll feel better after being married to your dad. Will you feel better with these sort of things, right? And so you get that, and you're just cracking up, and then you can't wait to see Reese Witherspoon's mom and her dad. And so her mom is like this cougar that's now starting to date the pastor, so she brings them to church, and that's one of the craziest, funniest scenes ever in a movie, when these guys go to church and have to play Mary and Joseph because they were picked out of the crowd at the last minute, and Vince Vaughn gets into it and decides to do Rockstar Jesus style at the church. It was crazy. And then, of course, her dad is John Vaught, who's a man who was a military man who admits that he made a lot of mistakes and he didn't really spend certain time with her, but he's the one that connects with her when he sees her issues. So this movie has that whole piece of what families like today. It's blended. It's not just mom and dad anymore. Now some of us have, stepbrothers and step this and step that. And so they just showed the hilarity of this, what with Christmas. And then Vince Vaughn is just his timing with comedy is perfect. And Reese Witherspoon plays with him just perfectly. It's really good. And chemistry. Oh my gosh, and so many one-liners in that film too, like when he's telling, they're in the car and she's like not wanting to tell him some things. He's like, "You don't pull the goalie, you have to let me know what's going on." And she's like, "Pull the goalie? What's pull the goalie?" And then they start getting into all this stuff and why they don't want to have kids, and this sort of thing. And it's just great how Vince Vaughn's if we do have them, the tax write-off would be nice. And then if we could, maybe train them, and they go into all this stuff. But you'll love it. It's a fun movie. If you haven't watched it before, you need to watch it. If you watch it, you'll see the family connection to it and how maybe it may be disastrous on some ends. Some ends it's kind of funny. And Jon Favreau's in it too. The man, right, who directed Iron Man. He's in this, so you got to love it. So that would be my pick. So nice. What about you out there? All those of you who are watching, what is it that you watch on repeat, whether it's a holiday or not, or what's your favorite movie that you like to watch with family? Why don't you go ahead and comment below as you see it here on Facebook Live or on our YouTube page, and we would love to see that so we can interact with you. So before we do that, let's get to our shout outs, and then we'll let y'all get to it. So shout outs, we'll start with you.
All right. Let me shout out to my daughter, Nicole, and my son, Matt. I'm going to see them in a few days. And I want to shout out to a real close friend of mine on Twitter, lost a loved one due to COVID. And just want to say, guys, wear your masks and be safe out there.
Be safe out there, That's good. How about our special guest, Christy? Who you want to shout out to today?
Oh, my God. Definitely want to shout out to, I'm going to actually hop on with the Samarai said and say, definitely be safe, wear your mask. It's getting the holiday season, the worst, that's not the gift you want. Yes. And shout out to a big gorilla I know that's lingering around somewhere. He knows who he is.
Awesome. We appreciate it. Kzach?
Christy, where can we find you on social media?
Yes. Absolutely. Go to Jedigoddess.com if you'd like to see my film reviews. That's also going to be links to my Facebook. Please subscribe and follow. I do nothing but talk movies. And I'm also an artist, so JediGoddessArt.com if you would like to see some of my artwork and illustrations as well.
Yay! Thank you, Christy.
Thank you. This was so much fun. I loved it.
Thank you. We're gonna have you back for sure. Kzach, who you shouting out to?
We do want to give shout outs to the Dallas On Air family. We're thankful for them for giving us a home here week in and week out. Like I said, you can catch us talking Ready to Be Sundays. We want to shout out our friends. Eddie Medina, who's Figments, the Unexplained Mysteries podcast that airs on Mondays right here in DallasOnAir.com. And of course, coming up next, right after this, we're doing a special edition of Isle of Toys, hosted by Cole Houston. And he'll, of course, be bringing the Rancourt Pit, all things Star Wars, right after that. One more thing that I do need to bring up here is the founders of DallasOnAir.com, Jansen Ray and Catherine Chensky. They do a drive every year where they dress up as Spider-Man and Spider-Girl and bring toys to poor folks in the Metroplex. It is a very Spidey Christmas. You can go to a very Spidey Christmas. Donate if you can, if you have the ability. Like I said, if you can give monetary donation, those funds will go directly into buying toys and canned food. And this year, like I said, cleaning supplies and things like that they'll be delivering care packages to folks directly in the Metroplex. So if you live locally here, that is a good way for you to give back right here. Go to that website, averyspaddychristmas.com. You can also find us on Facebook. I believe there's a GoFundMe page where you can donate directly. Like I said, please help us out this year. Please donate there, and thank you for helping us out and helping the Dallas and their family just do something every year that we absolutely love, which is helping out other folks right here in the Metroplex.
That's right, and I will give you my shout outs finally, and I want to make all of mine specifically too. These are good friends and good people who are continuing to support us, which is huge. We don't get to talk about our thing without your support, and we appreciate that. So Brandy and Barry Austin, they love watching us. We appreciate your viewage. Also, Sean Presley, Lauren Wiedauer, Tristan Frazier, Harry Thomas, Troy Ross, Michael Paul, Daniel Meza, Mad Mel, who's a big contributor online. She always comments on our videos, so we just thank you for that. It means a lot to us. Eddie Medina, of course, Cole Houston, Stephanie Crane, and then up in the north, Scott Laney and Sandra. So those are our folks. That's going to be our time. We are Fulfillment. This was episode 21. We've got more coming for you. We want you to have a great time over Thanksgiving. And until then, we're just going to tell you, peace.
Sayonara.
Wash your hands, wear your mask. Thank you, drive through.
Blow your nose, then put on your mask.